You're live. All right.
Okay, we're good.
Check is going to play the guitar for you now that we're live. Check, go for it.
Nope.
He's going to do the theme song. No.
The only instrument I can play is the trombone and the tuba. So, we want those out?
We got an advertisement anyways. So they're missing all of your guitar playing, Check.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are missing all of the guitar playing because of the advertisement. And he's done.
And done. Finished. I think we're okay now. I don't know. Depends on how long of an ad they got.
Ad's gone for me, so I'm assuming it's gone for everybody.
We should be fine then.
All right, so thank you for those.
I don't like these. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What?
Okay.
I don't like these quotations around my name like it's Adora.
Okay, let's introduce everyone before we start bitching about the nameplates then. Okay. As everyone's noticed, obviously, Lay is still here with us today. Lay is the CEO of Sacrament. My name's Check. I do stuff. And then we're also joined with Adora and Crave down below, who are both founders. And quotations or not, that's their name.
Are there quotations on it? I didn't even notice.
They are, because it's not their real name. You do put quotations.
Yeah, Adora.
Whatever.
I think it looks good.
It looks fine. Anyway, continuing on from whining about our nameplates, we're going to be doing a Q&A tonight for the Kickstarter that has went live. We've gathered questions from all over the internet of people that have asked over the last couple months, as well as if you hear ask questions here, we can answer them. We have someone from the department, and I actually think we have the department leads for every category of Sacrament at this point, like here with us, either in chat or hiding in TeamSpeak, ready to go answer questions. If we can answer them, they can, sort of deal. So pretty much let them rip. We have everything. So
let me introduce the department leads real quick. We don't have a lead for our development department. Myself and Crave work very closely with them. We don't have a lead for them right now, but we do have Cyanide here, who is one of our developers. We have Serena, who is our director of art. Our director of lore, also known as Dr. Lore, is Dr. Lore. We have the director of voice acting and voice acting assets here, also known as Knight's Night. And looks like we have two of our voice actors here, Sippy and Crow, who do some really good work. So did I miss anybody? I don't think I missed anybody.
I think you got everyone.
Okay, I got everybody. So they're going to be yelling at us in TeamSpeak and on the forums here as people are asking questions, as they try to regurgitate that to us so we can explain it to you, and then we screw it up. They're going to yell at us, and you'll hear a lot of pings go off. So, all right, so let's begin with some questions. For any of you that have questions, feel free to post them at any point in time. We went ahead and started putting together some questions we've seen throughout forums and other places so that it wasn't just dead space waiting on people to ask questions. I got yelled at already. Let's see what I got yelled at for. Oh, it's Knight's Night.
And it's just him, so we'll just continue. So
cool. So Knight's Night, make sure you're paying attention to the chat box and not the stream itself so that you get the questions. All right, so we didn't really put these in any order.
Nope, we never got that far.
Yeah, they're in A order, so we're just going to start from the top down. One of the questions that we got was why is a Kickstarter only $250,000? Doesn't it take about $1 million or so to create an MMO? The answer is, first, it takes way more than $1 million. Rough budgets estimate between 15 and 20 just for the team we're going to put together to create the MMO. And yes, it takes way more than $250,000. The reality is, after doing all the research on MMOs that have been out there, whether they were named or whether they had big names on them or not, regardless of what the situation was, the typical going price was between about $200,000 and $500,000. There was one that sat at $800,000, and that I think it wound up pulling some $200,000, so it didn't even succeed. Among that, there were still other. Even when you do push for $250,000, that's a huge amount. It's a massive amount, regardless of what's really going on, and it's difficult to quantify more than that. So instead, what we wound up doing was we set a target for what would take us to the next phase. And for us, the next phase is essentially basic character design, basic combat elements, basic AI for NPCs, and your basic UI, so that we could come back, go create, and come back and show you a far more robust game as we've actually gone into development. And keep in mind, our Kickstarter right now is all pre-development footage that you're seeing. This is just volunteers working, an hour or two a week, putting together some landscape stuff under the guidance of myself, Crave, Adora, Wicked while he was with us, and just kind of contributing to that process. So this is not the development phase, which means it is essentially costs us almost nothing. The business costs money to start up, and there's other expenses that we had to put together in order to do this, but it's not a massive expense. In order to begin development, you could do that with volunteers, but the reality is you're only going to have so many volunteers. We've got 40 individuals right now with another 3 or 4 that we're talking to over the next week. We can continue to add, but it's never going to be a full-on development team until we have money that we can invest to pay employees to begin creating stuff. So the 250,000 mark is really the budgeted amount to help us get to the next phase. And the next phase is far more about getting more people aware and involved than it is really about raising money in a single Kickstarter event. We plan on doing things like Patreon, Kickstarters, stuff like that to help get people involved in the entire process with us, because money's something we absolutely need. And we firmly believe we've got a product that we know people are going to absolutely love. So, all right, check.
Okay.
Or Crave.
I say let Crave do the next one.
Yeah, this is a good one for you, Crave. Why crowdfunding versus using banks and publishers?
Good answer.
What was the question?
And that is Crave, folks.
We had a kid situation briefly. I apologize.
So the question for Crave is, why are we using crowdfunding techniques instead of going to banks or publishers?
Because we're tired of publishers, right? Publishers have ruined the freaking market for the past 20 years. Why would we go to somebody who's proven time and time again that they can't deliver, right? They don't make anything. They take control and then they just drive projects to the ground. And we don't want anything to do with that. That's my answer. I mean, that's
it. He stopped and heard yelling, so I didn't know if he was continuing or what.
That's a pretty clear-cut answer. It's really that simple. So we're not going to turn all these answers into really long speeches. You have the answer. All right.
Well, I can answer the next one because it's still in the air last time I knew. So unless that's wrong, I can answer this next one. So the next question is, what's your business/payment model plan for Sacrament? So for the payment model, it's not a cut and dry singular thing. So we were going to allow people to experience the game for the first set amount of tiers that we decide on. And that's going to be, even for the regular game, that's, it's, with a lack of a better term, it's your tutorial, it's your entrance. It's let you see what the world is made of. And then past that, it's going to be a buy-to-play option to get the core of the game, which you will be able to progress all the way up to tier 16, I believe, which is where the rating begins. And then for the tiers from 16 onward, the plan originally is that's when we put in while it's lower on the dollar value, we'll have a subscription model. But we're still in talks of if we even want to do that or not. That's something that will have to be figured out way down the road on just how the game is being done. So, but as of right now, it's not a singular form of the game. You'll be able to experience the game for free. We're not going to let you, force you to buy a game just to see if you fucking like the game. And then you get to experience the core of the game. You'll be able to go run around everywhere. And also, even if you're not subscribed to the game, you'll go to those. You can run to those tier 16 zones and around and see what's all around. But you won't be able to get any loot or experience or anything from the mobs. And I use experience, but you won't be able to get any loot or faction rep or anything like that from the mobs that you're killing. You'll just be able to go see what's there. I think that answered that. So
yeah, that's a solid answer. So, how many abilities can you learn? Ashley, I'll field this one. We'll throw Ashley the next one. So how many abilities can you learn? I actually just went over to our global abilities list. Aside from special abilities, anything that's not really a global ability, right? So your class abilities, epic abilities, stuff like that. Aside from
they're figuring it out on their own. You continue.
aside from all of those, your global abilities, where everybody can find these and learn these, crafted, sold by merchants, faction-based, quest rewards, drops. There's numerous ways to achieve these. Of those abilities, there are currently, and this is just the raw abilities, right? 173 total abilities that you can find in the world and learn. These abilities have higher versions of themselves, so higher ranks and tiers as you go through the game, which in and of itself multiplies. We've got 5 groups of those, so that winds up being some 865 total abilities. But we don't want to fluff that number. The ability itself, let's say a fire ability, right? Fireball is the same fireball from tier 1 to tier 5 to tier 11 to tier 15 and so on. So it's not
ranks,
less tiers than that. It's I don't want to mislead anybody into thinking that we've got 165 unique abilities or anything crazy like that, because that's not the way that we're portraying the game. It's 173 abilities right now, and there's no blending in the abilities. We haven't even put together the blended abilities. And what I mean is, right now we've got the ability set up. If they do damage, they do damage. If they CC, they CC. If they snare, they snare. They don't do anything else. So now we get to go in and start making the abilities that blend. So it's got a snare and a damage over a time effect on it, or a snare and after a set amount of time turns into a root, or things like that. That'll add a lot more abilities to the game. So this question comes in because somebody was asking, and they mentioned WoW. I know EQ2, Terra. There are quite a few games out there where all the abilities you can learn, you can put on your bar and use them at any point in time. So the follow-up question to that was, how many abilities can you actually use at once? Our game, if you've got all of your passives, you will have a 10 to 12 slot ability bar, global ability bar, not your class abilities. Class abilities would be up to 4 if you've got all of your passives. And you're essentially going to be swapping abilities based on the fight you're going into. Namely elements of the primary. If you're the type that likes to do a lot of CC, you're not going to be swapping a bunch of CC abilities because, for whatever reason you feel the CC type is going to do better. Our abilities, a damage ability does the same amount of damage as the next damage ability. The difference in them is the element you're using against your target. If your target's weak against fire and you're using an ice damage ability, you're probably not going to get all that much damage out of it. If he's weak against fire and you use a fire damage ability, you're going to get more damage. So you see the base damages, and you have to learn what the mobs are weak against, and your CC should be able to help you out and tell you what the mobs are a little more prone to taking damage from. And the same thing goes with our melee elements as well. So Adora, are you there?
I am.
Here's a question we got. I think we could probably have a couple people jump on this. How does your game stand out from other games?
Oh, God. A lot of ways, really, but I think the most important one for me is that your choices are actually going to mean something in this game. You get the illusion of choice, I feel like, in a lot of the other MMOs that are available right now. You can make a decision, but does it really affect anything in the world? No. Does it really affect anything other than, a crappy quest reward that you're probably maybe going to use for a couple levels, if that? No. In Sacrament, those choices will absolutely make a difference. It'll make a difference for your player or your character's progression, and in many cases, it'll make a difference in the world around you as well. On top of that, and playing into that, the quests are meaningful. You're not going to find, 450 fetch quests in Sacrament. You're not going to have a lot of those go talk to this person and they send you to talk to this person and you go and talk to 10 people and that's it. The quests are going to take you a while. But the caveat with that is, or the benefit with that is that you get quest rewards that you can use, that you will want. This isn't throwaway gear that you're just going to sell for a little bit of in-game currency. This is something you're going to want to work toward. And we also offer more role play elements, I believe, than anything else that is currently on the MMO market. Role players tend to be kind of overlooked by developers. They'll throw them a bone here or there, but for the most part, they don't get a lot of attention. And we wanted to make sure that they got a lot of attention, that they get a lot of tools that they need without having to go outside of the game and use 4 or 5 different softwares just to have a little RP event. We will give them the tools to have those events in the game.
And then also to add on to that, I think another big standout from our game compared to others would be in Sacrament, there is class, I can't think of the right word. Your class has meaning to what you choose what it is. You don't go and have, say a warrior and a paladin and go, okay, they do the same thing. They both are tanks, they both do the same damn job. It's when you pick a warrior compared to a paladin, they're wearing entirely different pieces of gear. They're using entirely different skills, and like just to still do tanking, they're playing entirely in a different manner. Warrior is going to be more evasion, whereas your paladin is actually taking the hits. They're in the heavy plate. They got the big bulky shields. They're using their blessings and so on and so forth that they gain from their class to actually impact what they do, whereas a warrior doesn't have spells, but instead they have their specializations in being one of the fiercest people alive. That is taken into account when you're playing as your class. Like, just because they're tanks doesn't mean they need to do the same damn thing. Every class has its own specialization. It plays in its own manner. They use entirely different sets of gear, so on and so forth. Like, every single class is its own independent unit. These are tanks, these are DPS, these are healers. Have fun. And then on top of that, instead of just using the Trinity, we're using a 5-class system. CCs are their own class. They specialize in crowd control in the game. Your support is its own class. They're your buffers, your debuffers. Like, they are their own entity. They're not mixed in with other classes. You're not going to have a healer heal, res, and buff your allies in the middle of a fight. Like, those are 3 different jobs. They need to be divvied up to 3 different people because it allows you to get more. Sorry, cat. It allows you to get more diversity in the game and not just having everyone running around and you're just taking a tank. You're not looking for a tank. You need a paladin specifically. You need someone to CC a mob. You go out and find an actual CC class. You're not just going to get a DPS that has 1 extra CC ability over the other. Like, you take someone that's specialized in that field.
Yeah, it plays into, even all of your choices mean something. That includes the race that you choose. That includes the class that you choose.
The deity.
It's really important.
Like,
absolutely. Yeah, it's
everything
really important.
Matters.
I'd like to just say that not only are your classes built that way, but the fights you get into are built that way as well. And it's something that was important. And I try not to bring up other MMOs too often, but I think it's a good example. ESO had the ability, I played a Sork tank. Most Sorks were DPS. Most tanks were definitely not Sorks. But I was able to build it to play it the way I wanted. And then when that started catching on, I actually built a light armor Sork tank. Having the fights, though, were all built for tanks to have only high mitigation, right? I don't know much about the other aspects. I didn't focus on any of the other aspects, but the fights were basically built around, if you cap your mitigation as high as you can, hit the soft cap plus, then you were an effective tank. In our game, that's not how it works, especially in the raid scenario. You can be a high mitigation paladin tank, but if mobs are hitting really hard, you're not going to be able to mitigate enough damage to get through. So fights like that, your avoidance tanks are really going to shine. Whereas in a fight where there's the mob's really quick, but he hits really light, the avoidance tank's not going to be able to avoid all that damage. So the paladin would come in those types of situations and absolutely shine over them. So the fights are based on all of our classes, all of our capabilities, the way that everything in the game works has to gel cohesively. Otherwise, what is the point of being able to give you the opportunity to tank any way you want, to heal any way you want, if there's no difference in the fights? If all the fights are pre-programmed to require you to do a lot of, or to mitigate a lot of damage and to heal really fast for high amounts. Your heal over time tanks go to crap. Your defensive ward tanks go to crap. You have no place, or healers, I mean, you have no place for any of that in the game, so why even bother building classes like that? Which is likely why you've seen a lot less classes in a lot of MMOs, because it simplifies the fighting situation.
I'd say that flavor goes even further, right? If I'm playing an assassin, and my buddy here beside me is playing an assassin, and my other buddy's playing an assassin, all three of them are built differently, because Sacrament doesn't have the end all be all, this is the only build for this class. You have to do this if you want to do this. And that sets each character apart, right? That gives each character and each player individualization in their character. They can say, oh, well, I want to focus on poison damage as an assassin, or oh, I backstab the piss out of this motherfucker. You know, it allows, hey kid, it allows that personalization.
Okay, I think the lack of hearing kids means that.
I think he's done. Yeah, I took that as a sign from the.
I just hope he doesn't ask us to applaud. I'm sorry, that was a stab, a political stab. I won't do it again.
Should I take a bow? Do I need to take a bow to let you know when I'm done?
Yes,
please.
Tip your hat, dude. Tip your hat. Your hat's great. Just tip your hat.
There you go.
All right. What's next?
I think
How
Blade
does
does a
tier
good
progression-
explanation of this one.
Okay. So the question is, how does tier progression work over level progression? It's a really complex question. Okay. It's really long. I'm going to try to keep it really short. I can go into far more detail on this on another stream, but this answer in and of itself is exceptionally long. So is the intro, apparently. All right. So with level progression, you wind up with a few elements that everybody recognizes, right? Your character, they advance in power. So the most important thing is you become a little bit more powerful. So the creatures that, let's say you're level 3, the creatures that were level 4 are no longer hitting you as hard and as fast as they were before, or as often as they were before. Now you're on the same playing ground, and now they're missing a little bit, right? They're not just manhandling you. At the same time, you were level 3. Creatures that were level 3 were hitting you at a rate equal to your level, but now that you've gained that level, now they're only hitting you, they've earned a 20% miss chance because you've gained a level, right? And that continues to accrue as you go further up. So you, as a player overall, get more powerful in a lot more aspects than just your stats. Okay, this is very interactive with the NPCs around you. The next thing is a lot of times you have more available skills and abilities to you, right? You've got spells that you can't learn until you hit level 15. Certain abilities you can't learn until you hit a certain level, and all these things and several limitations. So all in all encompassing, gear you can't put on, weapons you can't use. You've got a lot of limitations on leveling. The real big problems come when you want to play with your friends. Okay, let's say I've been playing a game for a week. I had early access. I've been playing for a week. Or there's a game out there right now. We use this as a great example. There's a game out there right now that I believe said that they were going to do a 3-month early access, and now they're actually putting it up to a vote. I only know this because I was reading MMORPG.com. I'm sorry, and the player base was upset that you had to buy into the early access or something. And because it was going to give them 3 months of head start time. 3 months is a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time, but that's a whole nother discussion.
It is a tremendous amount of time. Regardless how your MMO is built, it is an absolutely long time. So let's say I bought into that, but Czech don't have money, so Czech didn't buy into it. Okay, and 3 months come by, and I've got a max level guy who's all geared out. I mean, decked out in the best gear. And Chet comes along, and me and him are boys. We game all the time. And I said, all right, I want to play with you. But I hate alts. I don't make alts. So I try to power level them, except we can't group. We can't do anything together. I have to create a brand new character just to hang out with my boy. Something I've been working on for 3 months. I'm proud of. I love. I put all this time and effort into, and now I have to recreate a brand new character just to hang out with my boy. For some people, it's not an issue. Crave is a freaking alcoholic, right? Absolute alcoholic, loves that shit. For myself, hate alts. I don't like running the same content over again. And a lot of that's got to do with the same content, literally being the same fucking content. I'm sorry. I don't think I'm supposed to cuss anymore.
Fucking whatever. Okay, just continue.
There you go.
Whatever.
So with the progression-based system that we're using, we remove a lot of those differences. And before anybody says, oh, well, Trollolol, you could just sink down. Okay, sinking only works in a couple games, and even then you're still massively overpowered. It's sinking down.
You're either overpowered or you're underpowered is the problem, too. Because then you lose all your shit, half your gear doesn't work right, so it gives you, fake stats that gear would have at your level, even though that gear doesn't exist at your level, and it just doesn't fucking work. It's
sinking
all
down
wrong.
Becomes a nightmare really quick. Okay, and it was badass when the question was first asked. Well, okay, we've got these levels, but we've got this problem with players wanting to play with buddies who are lower level. How do we resolve it? Sinking down was an excellent immediate answer. Okay, but it was never supposed to be a long-term answer. Ever supposed to be a long-term answer. So, as gamers, being absolutely fed up, we decided we were going to determine a way to overlook it. And there's a little bit of inspiration after I watched SAO for the first time and seeing their progression system. They still use levels in SAO, so we can't say that was wholly from SAO, but the progression system in and of itself was rather inspiring. I mean, I drafted up this document and sent it over to Crave and Adora, and we had a long conversation about it, and we absolutely fell in love with the way that was going to work. And so progression for us was far more about a system where it doesn't matter how long you've been playing. At any point in time, you can go hang out with your friends who are low levels, or let's say we've got a group. It's Crave, Adora, myself, and somebody else. That's 4, and another person, so that's 5. And we're going straight on into tier, 14 content. Okay, we've been playing the game for 6 months, and we're at tier 14 content. And Czech decides he's one of the people that waits 6 months to see how the game does. I know a lot of people like that. So 6 months passes, game's still doing good, people are still loving it, and he says, "Screw it, I'm gonna start playing." So he comes and plays with us. Now he's not going to be progressing the way he needs to progress, but it gives him a chance to hang out with us and play with us and get a feel for the game and get a feel for his class. He earns limited EXP and very limited currency, and EXPs for his abilities, mind you, not for him, but a limited currency, but he still gets to come and hang out and contribute with the group and play with the group, so long as he has access to the area. Obviously, we've got a few places you have to key for or attune yourself to, but for the most part, this progression system where you still get the feel, right, of leveling up, your character becoming stronger. The mobs below you and above you, they're not going to hit you anymore, any less, just because of their progression level. That's gone. There's no need for that at all. The gear you're obtaining has different type of stats on them than normal stats, a different type of meta game on the gear than a typical MMO, where in a typical MMO, you're talking about, one level to the next being 50 to 100 points in agility or something like that, or maybe armor and defense. In Sacrament, it's not focused on those numbers nearly as much as it's focused on how much of these items you could put in your gear. So the socket slot system for us with the gear progression through the tiers, through the tiers. What up, Sindin? I was wondering if you were asleep or not. I was thinking of that earlier when I sent out the message on Hootsuite. I totally apologize, Sindin, for not giving everybody the heads up. I've been pommeled with the media blitz for Kickstarter. Anyway, so that's the shorthand version of the difference between a progression system versus a leveling system.
Also, to answer, I forgot about this, and this also explains why our German friends aren't here. NA had a time change last week.
Oh.
We're all an hour ahead of you guys now. I completely forgot about that. Nope. Yeah, no. EU has not switched time yet, so that's because it's sending us to ask, and I forgot about it. No, we're not early. We just forgot to say last week that time change happened, so we'd be an hour ahead for a week. So
I wasn't even aware. A dumb American. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. I completely didn't even cross my mind. Wasn't even a shadow of a thought. Okay. So
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
it's America doing our American thing.
I assumed everybody did the same thing.
They do, but we decided we need to do it at a different time than them for some reason.
I say we just get rid of it altogether, but we can't do that until we create a video game that we can take over the world with.
There you go. That's the plan. All right. So, Crave, I see you moving around. Are you wanting to answer the next one?
Yeah, I can feel that one.
All right. All right. So the question is, before you continue, is you guys have never made a game before, and with a group of volunteers, how will you ever make a successful game?
Passionately. How's that? We've got the best volunteers, and it's because they're people who want to do it. They want to work on this project. They believe in the project. They throw their heart into the work that they do. But I see. But to answer the first part of the question, we haven't made a game before. But really, people who have made a game before, what have they done since? Right? I mean, if you look at any of the names out there that say, oh, well, they worked on EverQuest, or oh, they worked on SWG, or they worked on Star, or whatever, any other name, any other MMO, then they come out and because they worked on those early MMOs, they think they've got a big name and they want to carry that name into making a new MMO. And you get things like Vanguard. you get crap games from these people who are just relying on their name to give them something, right? I mean,
yeah, they get out of touch with what they made because they had one success, so they instantly think anything they touch is good.
They're no longer gamers. They're purely developers at that point. They no longer look at their product from a player's standpoint, right? And we do, because we're players. We're every day we're players. We look at what's on the market and we say, that's a pretty good idea that this game over here did, and that's a pretty good idea that this game over here did, but it could be better. It could be so much better. So we don't need the experience of having made one before. We need the knowledge to improve on what's out there now, and that we've got in spades.
Saying it's the tacky version, but another thing, if someone's willing to volunteer 8 months, 6 months, a year of their time to make something, they're not doing it for the fucking money because they're not getting shit. They're doing it because they love it. And when you put that much effort into something, you're getting way more than a guy that's trying to get his paycheck for the week. I would like
to add one thing, and I'm not going to say what I typed up there because I realize it might be too much, although it's reality. When it comes to creating an MMO, what a lot of people don't realize is that the massive amount of complexity doesn't come from the creation of the MMO, the taking it from the pages to the virtual space. That, in reality, what people don't realize is the easier part. Now, it's still complex, okay? It's still a part of a huge nightmare, okay? So don't hear me saying that it's not difficult to do. What I'm saying is the reality is, it's something that we can learn by watching. Pantheon is a great example, okay? Brad McQuaid, tons of experience, okay? We talked about Vanguard, great example. Whenever Brad McQuaid says he's going to build an MMO, he absolutely gets a ton of people to support him, just outright, instant support, okay? There are rumors, I haven't looked into it, but there are rumors that the second he said he was going to do it, some company handed him $6 million for the project. Would love to have that kind of money, but neither here nor there. Brad McQuaid also wanted to run as the business itself, okay? And he's come out. I'm not knocking him. I don't know any of these things, but he's come out and he's even said, listen, running the business is more than I can't build the game and run the business at the same time. It's way too much work, far too complex to manage both. He went out and appointed somebody to run the business side of it for him, a CEO in position to do the things needed to do. What people don't realize is the business aspect of this game is far more complex than building the game itself. I mean, you're talking about logistics beyond reasoning, okay? And this is stuff that we are starting to learn about the MMO specific space. The business aspects, I've got that in spades. We're not all that worried about it. Adaptation is something we're exceptional with here. We've proven that over the last year already. So when it comes to the lack of experience, the only lack of experience we have in a big pool of necessary experience are two elements. One, having a business within the MMO space, and two, creating an MMO. That's only two elements, okay? There's about 18 elements out there that are required. How come nobody ever knocked Brad McQuaid for having zero experience running a business? Because he's never run a business, but nobody talks about those kind of things. Gamers seem to only ever consider that a game only takes developers to build, but it doesn't. It's not even remotely only. That's one team, one place where a lot of people are getting way too much credit for. The reality is the developers can do all the work in the world. And every gamer will say this the second you get a game. There was an MMO a couple years ago, right, that got out there. It was a fairly decent MMO, actually, compared to pretty much anything out there. It was a really good MMO. But they didn't sell the product. They didn't make it aware to anybody. There was no marketing team. Nobody knew about it. They shut down 3 months later and just disappeared off into the night. Pretty damn well put together game. Small ass team of people doing it. And yet the second that game failed, the first thing was, well, they didn't manage the business very well. They had no experience with business. Well, wait a minute. What is it? You got to tell me what do you think is required for the creation of an MMO? Because if it's my team against any other team that's out there, they can have all the money in the world they want. All the money in the world they want. I will take my team over their team any day. I'll also take their team into my team. I'll be glad to do it. If you want to bring your developers on over and some of that money, sure, go for it. Publishers, stay away. But the business aspect of the creation of this game is the most important aspect of the creation of this game. The next thing is, do you have an entire game concept before you begin creation? How do you know how to build a development team if you don't even know what you're making? Honestly, that's a question we need to ask. How in the world can you build a house without a blueprint? You can't just throw windows in halfway through the project. These are things that have to be known. There's a lot of measurements, system measurements, diagnostics, metrics that have to be understood before you begin the creation process. We had Bacon begin building a small piece of our world, right? And then we realized, well, we didn't give him the exact measurements for that. We just told him big as fuck. And he created it, and it wound up being inaccurate size. But we had to go in and measure every angle and we know how the furthest distance from north to south. We know the furthest distance east to west. We know point-to-point distances. We've got all that information at this point. And that's stuff we had to learn as we went about. We don't have the development team. That's somewhere we don't have experience. We resolved it fairly quickly. So I find it difficult to believe that a lack of building an MMO before will even remotely affect the outcome of the game. Will it affect the development of the game? A little bit, yeah, here and there, which is why we brought in Wicked, somebody who has a lot of developing experience, having worked in a few industries that developed items, software, coding, stuff like that. And we want to bring in other individuals who have experience. But the founding team, we created an entire game from the ground up. Name the other MMOs that have done that have started with that. And you'll find but two, and they're classics. Absolute classics. None of the stuff you see nowadays. And those classics, the teams that built those games, they had zero experience building video games or MMOs when they built the first classics. So I don't buy it. I'm not sold on that yet. Somebody's going to have to really do some hardcore selling to convince me that because we don't have experience as developers that we can't run a business that creates video games. That's why you hire people. So.
And also, it's a short but sweet add-on to that. You can't have experience for something new. The problem is, if you're always worried about someone's experience and what they've done in the past, and you judge what they've done in the past and what they're going to do again, for them to get credit from you, they're going to remake what they made in the past, not something new. Remaking the same old thing does nothing That's not what's fun. If I don't need to replay the same game, reskin like 12 times. It's boring as shit. But what I want to do is I want to take what was so good about that game, because every game has its slights, and make it better, expand on it, keep going. Because that's how you move forward. That's how we move forward as an industry as a whole. That's how you make new things. That's how you make exciting things, because it's new. You can't have experience for something new. Oh, that's what was dinging. Okay.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, that's fine, Ashley. Dora, sorry. All right. Check.
Yes.
Do we have any questions going on over here? I see a lot of talking.
No, they're all talking about what classes they want to play now. Hashtag
Bard,
dual shields.
Oakenbard.
Hashtag dual shields.
All right, so check. Here's one for you.
Okay.
What do you mean? And I feel you can answer this because you've, especially over the last couple of days, right?
Yeah.
because we've been playing some Project 1999, okay?
Yeah.
And we've actually been talking about this particular question quite a bit. What do you mean evolving old school? Anything pre-WoW is terrible.
All right. Well, first off, anything pre-WoW isn't terrible, but that's just fanboys being fanboys, so I really have nothing to add on to that, because WoW took what was good from the previous games and put them all into one mesh, because they understood as a marketing company, which they're fantastic as, that they don't need to make their own ideas if they take other ones and combine them together. So fucking kudos to Blizzard. We say this all the time. They're fantastic at that. But the proof in what they did is that there was fantastic things made in the old school games, in UO, in fucking EverQuest, and even one top over games like Ragnarok Online back then. Those games had fantastic values to them because people played them. Now, it doesn't mean there's no negatives to them. Everything has a negative, because it can always be better. So when we go say we're evolving the old school games, and we specifically repeat EverQuest because we feel like it's the game that the niche is missing and it needs to be added to, but it doesn't need to be repeated. It needs to be grown. And so to do that, we're taking what's great from the old games. The class system, instead of a Trinity, it's a 5-class system, as we've talked about before. The fact that in old school games, how MMOs came into existence is the social aspect of the world. Nothing, you don't go out on solo. You go out, you make friends, you find a guild, you get a group together, you go out and you take your group, of your 5 or 6 people, and you go and fight the camp of mobs, because you can't solo them. You're having to group up because your class can't do everything. You're a healer. You don't do anything but heal. You're a tank. You don't kill mobs. You just keep their threat. You need your counterparts to interact with you to be able to progress through the world. And that's what is good about old school games, is the social aspect, the atmosphere you get from them, the sense of excitement, and just the adventure, because you go through a world experiencing it. My English is great, because you're not rushing through it. You're not skipping through and going, oh, look, this is an awesome texture of, the zone around me, but I'm just doing a fetch quest with different words in it, so I don't even read it. It's the same fetch quest as, the one in the last zone.
And that's why the community is so much better in those older games, because you do have to come together. You're not just running through and trying to level as quickly as you can by yourself to get to some in-game content, and then you end up with people who just, they don't have that same sense of
You don't have the right
belonging.
mindset of playing with others.
Right.
Like, you show up to a raid to go, I want to kill that mob. Whereas what the mindset should be is, I'm going to go get my buddies. We're going to go out and have a blast and, do this for the night. And if we kill that mob when we're out having our fun, fuck yeah, we're doing even more than we wanted to do. Like, it's the adventure and the grouping and everything. That should be the focus of your game. You make raiding and PvP so you have something for your group to do, but your group is what makes an MMO, not the content. Like, I don't know what to say to that, because that's literally it.
I think that covers that. All right, so this one's also for you, Check. We decided beforehand.
Yes.
We decided beforehand there was an element of this that just All right. Yeah. So I would not be the best to answer this question. Why are you trying to get Kickstarter funds without having a tangible game? You're obviously just trying for a cash grab.
Yes. Well, I don't have to go into rants on this one. Pretty much what it is when you look at Kickstarters, even past games, even the bigger companies, even those names you cheer and shout about that have all this experience, guess what they put on their Kickstarter page? Some concept art, maybe a look at the world around. You're lucky if you even see an actual NPC in that look around in the world, and like 3 to 4 things about their game, because that's all they've decided. Because they don't make the whole game, because they go, I want to make a video game. Let's make it about this. Let's make PvP. Let's have, in the PvP, guild-based siege combat, so on and so forth. They decide they're like 3 to 4 like main points of the game, and just fuck the rest, because we'll figure that out as we go. Because we're gonna get $2 million, and we can sit on our ass for the next year and figure it out. Like the whole it's trying for a cash grab. The biggest cash grab is the people that don't have an entire game. They show up and go, I want to make a game and it's about this. And that's all they have. That's a cash grab. When we can give you from A to Z what's happening the entire way, as well as what's happening in the game, the processes we're going to take, and we can tell you like everything about our game, the classes, the world, the deities, how the questing is going to work. Like we can give you not specifics, but we can tell you every part of the world together in one big puzzle. What's going to happen? Like, I don't know how much more tangible you can get, because making the game is not hard. Like actually like coding and everything, that's time consuming. The hard part is making something worth playing. And if it's worth playing before you put it into a virtual space.
For the most part.
Yes.
You can
Outside
see
of bugs.
You can see what's going to look good on paper and will never pass. I mean, we've seen that a few times. But the reality of that is you have to have the systems that support something on paper at the same time, which is why we've seen a lot of things go on paper and then look really bad in the game. And it's because I think I had a conversation with Neo about this on one of our forum posts. I was watching one of his streams and he was talking about this, where you could see the developers had an idea that came up maybe last minute, or maybe they had the idea come up and they just never built anything around it, where something goes into the game that sounds like a great idea. And then you see, well, this only works if you've got this and this, or if you're doing this, or if this is happening, and none of that stuff is happening. So it was kind of a partially thought out concept. So, all right, Crave, this one's for you. I guess it's for both of us. I'll let you read it. What kind of PvE and PvP will we see in your game? And how will you balance both aspects of the game? They're talking about this in chat right now, too.
Yes.
Well, I guess you want me to cover the PvP side, huh?
Yeah.
So, by treating them separate, right? So, some games out there, they'll say, well, this ability does 100 damage in PvE. It should also do 100 damage in PvP. No, that just doesn't work. You can't assassinate a mob for 10K and then also assassinate a player for 10K. This shit doesn't work. So you have to balance them separately. You have to treat them like two separate systems. And Sacrament, you level in them, or you tier in them separately, right? You can be fucking top gear rated raider on the fucking PvE side. That's not really going to help you out on the PvP side, because you go into PvP the first time as PvP rank 1, tier 1, starting fresh. I don't care if you're geared in max raid gear on the PvE side. You're tier 1 when you go into PvP. And the same is true of PvP. You go all the way up until you're the best PvP on the fucking server. You're God's gift, what have you. You go into PvE, you're rank 1, you're tier 1, you're nothing, right? You have to treat them like two different systems. Now, a backstab is still a backstab, but it's going to act differently against a player in PvP than it is against a mob in PvE. And that's just the way it should be. It's the way it has to be in order to balance it out right. That's what I got for PvP.
So
Hat
PvE.
tip.
Hat tip. Yes, thank you. In PvE, hold on. So PvP, did you talk about the different things that they're going to see in the game? All of your arenas and whatnot, open world stuff like that.
Oh,
The
the
question
different
wasn't
types
just
of
the
PvP.
balancing. They want to
Gotcha.
know what PvP will be in the game too. It's a two-part question.
I got you. So PvP, there's a lot of PvP, right? And it's another thing that developers, they'll throw in last minute, right? They'll say, oh, well, let's throw this in there for the PvPers, right? We'll throw in arenas because, you know, PvPers like that shit. We'll make this zone over here that PvPers can go to because, you know, we'll shove them in a corner somewhere. But the truth is, and I've said this time and time again, there are different types of PvP players just as well as there are different types of PvE players, right? You've got your PvE raiders and RPers and groupers and soloers all in the PvE side. You've got just as much diversity in the PvP side. Some people prefer the arenas. Some people prefer battlegrounds and instanced group dungeons, right? Some people prefer open world, running out quests and any corner could hide a fucking enemy. And Sacrament has both, right? We have them because those PvPers exist. Because players like me, one day I might like to jump into an arena and just fucking do that all day long, from one arena to the next. The next day, I might want to run around a quest in an open world PvP zone because it adds that little edge. Right? It's all there, right? And it's all there because the players are there. That's
I like the background
that's it.
I'm distracting the shit out of
so-
y'all.
I say.
So we've got arena PvP for players who like arena PvP. We've got open world PvP for players who like that PvP. We've got city PvP, which is something kind of new. And I think it's up on the website already. It's pretty interesting if you want to check it out. I highly
We're still
recommend it.
here. They're just breaking things. Continue talking.
What thing?
What? Yeah. What? Oh, it just looks all
Podcast?
sorts of fucked up, but they still hear us. Yeah,
All
they
right.
still hear us though, right? We're still good with that. Okay, just keep talking then, Crave.
So we've got technical difficulties, which really just means you're not staring at Check and I's face.
Gorgeous though. All right.
Yeah, if all of that went through, then I mean, I think I'm good. Right? We've covered.
I don't know. I still
Arena,
see Check and I's
city,
face just fine.
world.
Turn it off. Check and I's face is just fine.
Good.
We've also got the deities play a big part in PvP, right? So that's something that's really interesting, and it's gonna throw a wrench at a couple players, and it's gonna be interesting.
Really a
to see handle.
huge part of the PvP.
Yeah.
I knew I should have left our Twitch open to verify stuff like that. All right, so PvE. Actually, I think Craig might have already mentioned it. So PvE, you're getting what most game companies don't want to provide. Mostly not because they can't do it, because it's difficult to figure out how to do it, and that's raids. Okay, and I'm not going to sit here and try to say that raids are easy, raids are complex, or that our team's freaking brilliant or anything like that. I mean, our team is rather brilliant, okay? I'm a smug son of a bitch sometimes, okay? And rightfully so. If you knew my history, you'd give me a pass on certain things. When it comes to the raids, the grouping aspect of PvE, there is a minor solo aspect of PvE, but as we put this system together more and more, we're starting to realize that even that is not something players are going to want to do solo very often, very much. So even then, it's not a huge solo aspect. Originally, when we drew the game up, we imagined many players would be able to solo, up to tier 7, 8 before they needed a buddy. Probably not going to happen like that anymore, just because of the way that the NPCs work. But So you've got, you know, a little bit of solo capability, but the reality of PvE is the group atmosphere. Czech talked about this earlier. One of the huge things that happens in a type of atmosphere where the game actually challenges you is that players who have made it through those challenges, tier 12 players, tier 15 players, you know, they've got this gear sitting on them that they've had since, you know, they were level 1, 2, or, well, yeah, we'll go level 1, 2, or 3. And they'll, as they're passing by, maybe they've still got it on their inventory, and they'll hand it off to you, just randomly hand it off to you. We're playing EQ Project 1999, and Czech's sitting there, and this guy walks up to him and hands him 10 plat for helping his buddy out, and another guy walks up to him and hands him a whole bunch of tank gear. And we're just sitting there like, dude, what the hell, man? Yeah. Crave even got gear from some random. We're out killing things. And this guy comes out to the noob area, finds Crave, and gives him gear. I'm sitting there, the only one that's still playing the same character now. No gear at all. Like, nobody hands Lay gear. Nobody likes Lay. So I think it's a Bard thing. Nobody likes Bards. But those are the kind of things that happen in that type of a system. So huge grouping aspect. You'll find quests in our game. And when I say find, I mean you will find quests in our game. We're not going to lead you to them. We're not going to babysit you. We're going to let you find them if you want to find them. Do them if you want to do them. These aren't mandatory things. There's not going to be a game full of quests that are leading you from point to point. Hell, the quest won't even lead you to the next point. It's going to give you hits. It's going to tell you where to go while you're talking to the NPC. But your conversation with the NPC should be what matters, not the line that you follow after that, or the arrow on your map that points down at a spot you need to go to. That's not fun, okay? As a gamer, that's not fun. And I understand 86 million gamers in the market. The vast majority of them want those kind of things. I get that. But this game is not built for that type of player, okay? This game is built for the 1 to 2 million gamers who actually they don't just want a classic, okay? So when we say throwback to the classics, we don't mean throwback hardcore to the classics. We mean taking the mentality of the classics and utilizing that. And the mentality of the classics being, this is an MMORPG. This is a massive multiplayer online where your greatest resource is players. Why in the hell are we not using that? We've stopped using that in modern day MMOs, and it pisses the majority of us off. Some of us don't really care. We'll play whatever game is fun, whatever game we can get environment in and some social atmosphere in. But without that, there's no society. There's just people on a screen running and doing the same shit you're doing. So in the PvE world, you got the raids, you got the quests, you got a lot of group content. When I say a lot, I mean the majority of it is group content. What isn't group content? A little bitty bit of that is solo content. And a little bitty bit of that, I mean, is solo content. And then everything else is raid content. So group plus content. And this is how the game's been designed. And when we do balance, we balance from the raid down and not the other way around. We balance to have a real necessity for all of the roles, not just a couple roles. We didn't create a game half-assed. We didn't create a game that was only partially considered. We created a game as though we had been playing games for 15 years, as though we had been developing games for 15 years. And this is what we saw. And this is how we saw as players that needed to happen. She said L.
L? Oh, I wasn't paying attention. Okay.
Yeah. Balance. Balance actually is very simple. I know this is going to either confuse a lot of people, piss a lot of people off, or make them think I'm a great idiot. I respect that, okay? I really do. Honestly, I really absolutely do. Because we've been shown a specific algorithm for balance. And we believe we have to make that algorithm work. When the reality is the algorithm's fucked. It really is. It's screwed. The algorithm states that we should be able to take one spell that does 500 damage and costs 300 mana, and it should somehow be weighted against a spell that does 300 damage and costs 157 mana. And those are supposed to magically, once inserted in the system, balance each other out. Someone want to explain to me how in the fuck we got to that algorithm and how we thought that algorithm was justifiable at all. The reality is they try to create this weight system where you You increase the resource for the type and amount of effect that an ability has, but then you allow players to maximize the resource beyond necessity. Absolutely beyond necessity, because you want players to feel powerful, right? So one of two things has to happen. One, you address the abilities, or two, you address the capability to max out a resource. Which one do we want to go? Well, actually, we fucked around with both of them. To be perfectly honest with you, we messed around with both of them. We'll get into the resources, how they work at a later date, because we're still defining the exacts on that. And I feel in order to have a full conversation with everybody, to get real questions and understanding out of it, we're going to have to be able to display the exact information that we want to utilize. But when it comes to the abilities, instead of giving them wild metrics, we flatten the metrics out and we put the differences on their effects, right? So my stab ability versus a slash ability, both deal 100 damage. But if my target wears plate armor, one is going to do more than the other, or reality-wise, one is going to do less than the other. If I use a fire ability versus an ice ability, but the target is weak to fire, the fire damage ability is going to do more than the ice damage ability. And that's where the balance comes in. You give the balance, you put the balance in the hands of the players. You give them a natural system where there's a cause and effect between abilities and their targets, and the balance becomes something that's done innately on a player's level. Or players will teach each other or make fun of each other, depending on the player. And yes, you can't get rid of the assholes that are going to make fun of people and bag on people, but whoop, all right.
Okay.
Let us know when that's good to go, Crave. I'm going to minimize that. All right. But so the balance, the reality is the balance is actually quite simple on a developer side of the house. We wait, we give everything a base metric and then apply that a metric to the ability. We don't change that metric because we want abilities to have more flair. You change the effect of the ability if you want it to have more flair. The way the ability looks, you want it to have more flair. The elements of the ability for more flair. But the more variables you keep putting on top of these abilities, the more impossible they are to balance. And we've lost absolute sight of that. As developers, they don't play the game enough to see those kind of things. They really don't. And a lot of people see this, you hear this complaint all the time, that the developers don't understand their game. When you create something to have an effect, but refuse to verify if that effect is there, you do something. I learned my second year in the Marine Corps, right? Inspect what you expect. If you're going to expect something to happen and you put something in place to get that thing to happen, then you must, at that point in time, verify or inspect that it is actually happening. And this is something developers don't do. So much so that they rarely listen to the player base when we tell them that something is broken. And I say we because regardless of making this game, I am still a gamer. Absolutely still a gamer. The beauty of not being a developer, okay? The beauty of hiring developers is that I get to maintain being a gamer and not ever having to get lost in those kind of details. All right, so Neo says, now everyone says things like no mini map or no quest markers, but once the game is out, you can't do your quest while AFKing, watching TV. You will be the first to ask for the head of the developers who thought that would be a good idea. You're right. You're absolutely right. Here's the thing. You can get away with some of these elements without making the game difficult, right? We were just talking about this. Project 1999 has no map. You can't press M and pull up a map at all, even if it is blank, which it would be. And I believe the reason they did that was because there's EQ maps where you can download, put it into the map file, and it will automatically populate the map regardless. And it can't deny that because it acts as though you specifically drew the map, which is how maps used to work in EQ. You would draw the map in the game while you're playing the game. So with certain elements, you absolutely cannot remove them without the I mean, what is the value of removing a map? You know what I'm saying? A mini map, it's an option. Let players have it, let players not have it. I prefer no mini map. It's a lot easier that way. If I'm looking at the landscape in front of me, I can pay attention to the NPCs. If I'm looking at a mini map, I wind up getting lost in mazes and things like that more often than not. So I stay away from the mini map, but I know a ton of players, tons of players. ESO, great example of that right there. Something we talked about. Players didn't want a mini map. They wanted a very minimal UI. A lot of people were asking it, excited about this stuff. And then it hit and it was like, whoa, wait the fuck a minute. Like, there's not even an option. That's a basic thing. And a basic thing is a mini map. Quest markers, that's not that right there for the audience we're building for. No, I mean, yes, we're going to get some people bitch about that. Absolutely. And they can cry and complain for the head, and they can come to my stream and they can talk to me if they want to. But we're going to have a real conversation, not one where they're complaining about whether or not the game's too difficult for them because they didn't want to take the time to listen to the NPC. You're here to play a game that was designed, right? Content created for you to get involved in, not just snort your way through it. We're not pandering to people who want to AFK play our game. I understand that's money lost, okay? From a business perspective, pure money perspective, absolutely agree that is a bad idea. But the reality is we're not just creating a game that makes a ton of money in 6 months. Because what happens in 6 months with all of those games? They're gone. They're dead. They're useless. Nobody is playing that shit, or a very, very, very small amount, what's commonly referred to as a skeleton crew. Do I care? Do I really, from a business perspective, is it really that important for me to give up the longevity of the game for people who are going to complain about something and leave in 2 months anyways? Are those really my clients? Are those really the people that I'm creating this game for? The answer is hell no. Okay? Absolutely not. We have a business model here. We understand our product. Our product is created with the mindset of being a game with longevity, a game created with a very particular audience in mind. We understand our market audience. They are not a part of our market audience. They simply are not. Business companies within the MMO industry don't understand that. They don't respect that. The entire market is treated as the same exact market. And we wonder why video games have no value to them, why they're all lackluster and falling apart. Imagine a pants company that tried to create a pair of pants to fit everybody. Nobody would buy that fucking shit. We would ridicule them from here until the end of time. Imagine a car that tried to be luxury and common. Nobody would touch the thing. It would look like crap with a Walkman disc player inside of it. You can't build for all of these audiences. It's impossible to do so, but we accept people trying to do it within the MMO landscape forever. So yeah, people are going to bitch Neo. They're going to have to bitch, man. Seriously, they're just going to have to. That's my rant. I apologize.
Hey, we had to squeeze one in. Not a podcast till it's done. It is not, it is not a true Sacrament podcast till Lay gets up on his fucking pedestal and goes, preach! So it's fine.
All right.
All right. So we talked about this one last week. Do we want to talk about it or no?
That's up to you.
It's been like an hour. Let's do this one. So let's have Adora do this one, and then I'll highlight the other one or two we should talk about.
Is she there? She said
she's here. She said she was back.
All right, cool.
I'm a poopster.
Yes. I don't know what he said. I'm imagining he said I'm a poopster monster.
That's what I heard too. So
that's what he said. He's got a stool on his head right now. So
awesome. Stool on his head. That goes so many ways.
Question for you, Adora. Your game is called Sacrament. Why is this a wait? Oh, sorry. I can't read. Your game's called Sacrament. Why did you use this choice of name, and what actual impact does religion play in your game? English is hard.
Okay, so I'll answer the second part of that first, and then I'll explain the name. Religion plays a huge role in the game. I'm sure you can figure that out based on the name of the game, but yeah, worship is power, exactly. We have 21 deities in the game, and you will have to make a choice of which deity you want to worship. The choice that you make will affect what quests are available to you. It will affect what NPCs will talk to you. It will affect a lot of different things about PvP that I don't know if... Can we go into some of that?
there's only certain elements we can't go into, and that's story elements specific to launching the game. So
Okay, so something that's really cool about PvP that involves the deities is as you perform tasks in PvP and you kill other players, you will be gaining worship, gaining favor for your chosen deity. That deity will also be a member of a legion of deities. They're split. They're 21. They're split into 3 legions of 7 each. The more favor that you gain, the more, and I honestly can't remember what this bigger resource pool is called, so I apologize for that. But you'll basically be filling an overall meter, you and everyone else that's working for that legion. And eventually, when that is full, one of the deities from that legion will descend. That will be a raid boss. So if you're a part of that legion, that will be protective of you. If you're part of an opposing legion, that will attack you. So you have that aspect, and then another legion can have their deity called down at the same time. The two will make a beeline for one another, and you'll have these fucking huge, epic, literal gods battling it out right on the field where you are. It's going to be epic. It's going to be amazing. You're going to be
not dumb AIs either. Run by GMs.
Yeah, you're gonna have phone chains set up. So when this happens, you're gonna call everybody and be like, "Jump in the game." Adara has come down in the Tenebrous Legion. So it's gonna play a role in every single aspect of the game, and that is why we chose the name Sacrament. The definition of sacrament is that it's a religious ceremony or an act. It's like an outward sign of an inward divine grace. So kind of everything in the game, when you're talking about the deities and the faith aspect, it's exactly that. You're working on your own personal relationship, what have you, with your chosen deity, but at the same time, that's affecting everything outside of your character. Hat tip.
Is that how we end our sentences now?
It is. It's how they're letting us know. Excellent.
Okay. No
The Palladium Legion is a rage legion. I would have Angry Joe lead my legion. Seriously.
Yes. Oh.
Angry Joe would be the head deity in my legion.
Oh God! All right, well,
I feel like Angry Joe and I couldn't get along because you can never put 2 really angry people in the same room.
That wouldn't be productive in any form of.
It would be. We'd just be yelling at each other and laughing at the same time. So nothing would get done. All right.
Answer the next one, Lay. This one, you can answer this one, especially since Night just left. So
the question is, what is PvPE?
No.
No.
No. In green.
Skip that one.
We're in green.
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness. I love when people try to tell me what I am and am not wasting money on, first and foremost. Are you an accountant? No? Shut the...
Read the question before you talk about it.
No animosity. Tone it down.
I know. Why are you wasting money on voice actors when you don't even have gameplay? Excellent question. First off, I was not aware that we had released our financial documentation out to everybody that you could verify that we were spending money on voice actors. They too are volunteers. Why are we investing in volunteers for a voice acting position when we should be hiring developers? Is that what you mean to ask? Good question. When you're a pure volunteer system, as we are right now, unfunded, you go with what you have. We were not actually going to do any voice acting, absolutely no voice acting. But Knight's Night, our lead voice actor, or our director of voice acting and voice acting assets, came in and sat down with an overall plan with me. And we looked over the plan, and I told him no quite a few times. Okay, you can ask him. I'm pretty sure he wanted to stab me in the face a bunch. And then he went and talked to a few voice actors and recorded a couple things and showed them to me, and it made absolute sense. And as I talked more with the founders or the other founders, it was difficult to deny this. Now, the typical problem you see with voice acting, and this speaks more towards the money aspect, okay? The typical problem you see with voice acting is that usually games will hire big time artists and whatnot. So you recognize the voices, and you're going to pay a lot of money for that kind of stuff. We don't have that. We have highly talented individuals. Our website, actually, let me verify real quick for you. What is it? Races?
Oh, yeah, that's
Races.
supposed to be up now. I forgot about that.
Yes, so they're up now. If you go to our website, to the majority of our released races, I believe there's still one or two that we have not done that are released, you will find samples of what that race will sound like, okay? So this is a part of our voice acting work right now. The reality is, since our voice actors are in-house and no names, I mean, they're not majorly popular or anything like that yet, we actually get an excellent price on voice actors. I pay less. No, it's the same salary for a voice actor as I would pay for a developer by keeping them on full time. By paying for full-time staff, from an accounting perspective, I save, I think it was some 300% of the cost of what any other company, the lowest cost, okay? Because there's two companies out there we know spent way more than that on voice acting.
Yeah.
But than any other company has done on voice acting, okay? So I saw the capability to bring more life to this game. Sound is life. Whether you want to believe that or not, sound is life. The audio soundtrack is the primary sound of life. People talking, those ambient noises, walking up to somebody and hearing them interact with you, that's also a huge part of engagement in bringing somebody into the game. So before we use the word wasting, I challenge you to explain to me why that wouldn't make sense. What exactly is negative? What would be the negative aspect, and how would you prevent that? Would be my question for you. As a businessman, I have to consider a lot of these things when we make these decisions. I'm not just the CEO because I was the only one willing to do it. I'm also the CEO because I've run a company before, from nothing into a nice chunk value. That takes a lot of solid decision making, but that decision making takes a lot of judgment calls, a lot of questions being answered, and some caution. Not going to lie, there's a lot of caution in that. So when it came to this voice acting team, it wasn't something I wanted to do at first, primarily because of how much other companies have spent on it. But the reality is we were able to work in a really nice price for salary base for voice actors. It keeps them on board. That allows us to make adjustments anytime we need to make adjustments. We have the same actors on board that we had when we started the game. So when we need to fix audio, it doesn't all of a sudden sound like somebody came in and clipped a segment and plugged in somebody else's voice that almost sounds like it. I know many of you have heard this shit because I heard it and it drives me insane, okay? But the reason we chose voice acting was simple, because it's an element of the game that at this point in time is nearly mandatory, but was also very inexpensive for us to do the way that we go about it right now. We're not paying for it right now.
It adds
Everybody's
more life
volunteer,
to the world.
Yeah.
It adds more life to, I mean, you can actually get to experience just a little tidbit of what it's maybe going to be like in Estuary.
And a lot of players don't realize that, but immersion is something that is kind of important to the longevity of the game, right?
Mandatory.
Most games now, they throw it out the window. Players don't want to be immersed. They want to hurry through it or whatever. That's not the case, right? Players want to be drawn into the world. They want to invest in their character. They want to exist in the game. And having the sounds around you and having, the community, going back to the community, is a big part of that.
Sam, people use the word immersed like it's for role players only. This is going to lead great into like our final question for the podcast. It's the word immersed is being used entirely wrong. You don't need to be a role player to feel immersed in a world. It's the pull to want to be a part of it, to experience, to go out and do things in the video game as a whole. People can say all the time, I don't give a fuck about immersion. It means nothing to me. I just want to go do this, 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 and this. But that immersion is what makes you want to go do those things. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. You are immersed in the game because you want to play the game. That is immersion. You don't need to be some crazy role player from Goldshire to be immersed in your video game. The fact alone that you want to play the video game is immersion, and people just don't seem to understand what the word actually means anymore. And then I'll just ask the question. We can all just fucking answer it. This isn't an actual question, but it's showing up on review sites everywhere. People are asking it because it's on the review sites and everything. Are you a sandbox video game?
Here, real quick, before I get to that, Dr. Lord just asked me, how about a shout out to the Lord team? Absolutely. Over the next year, you guys are going to get to know our Lord team a lot better. Dr. Lord, we've got an interview coming with him. I don't want you to feel left out, Lord team, okay? Because without you, our website would be bland. Honestly, we wouldn't have anything on it. You guys are doing amazing work. You guys, the gamers, those not inside our company haven't seen it yet, but it's coming, and it's going to come hard, okay? Hard. You're going to love these guys. Shut up.
No, Blade, with the wording.
My goodness. All right. Anyway, so back to the question. Are you a sandbox? Rabble. No.
Exactly. No.
This is a hard question to answer, right? Because how does the industry view us? If we say, no, we're not a sandbox, people pick up the pitchforks and the freaking torches and unintelligently yell, railroad or theme park or whatever the case may be. They just start.
Stop using words to describe do not use a singular fucking word to describe an entire world. It's dumb. It needs to stop. Us doing this is never going to stop it. It's whatever. No, we're not a sandbox. No, we're not a theme park. We are Sacrament. Play the fucking game. I don't know what else to say.
Can't really add anything to that. That's pretty fucking perfect, honestly.
And that is the perfect fucking soundbite. It's Sacrament. Play the fucking game.
We'll just end right there. Just cut it off.
Crow, you hear that, right? So you need to go record that right now because we're putting that on the front page. Every time somebody comes to the website, I want
either of those questions. Are you a theme park
forget
or a
about
sandbox?
questions. If they come to the website, I want the audio to begin. It's Sacrament. Play the fucking game. Just automatic.
Wait, how come I can't do it? My voice is fucking angelic.
Angelic like a fallen angel trying to fall back out of hell. Sure.
Okay. And on that note, we are done, I believe, unless people in chat have questions. We have a delay, so we'll give it a second. But
anybody, if you got questions, ask.
I say
this is Sacrament / kicks off Cliff of Sparta. I think our developers are going to wind up putting some crazy Easter eggs in the game. You guys don't even know right now. All in all, we're having a blast making this game. Seriously. And I know there's people already, the Kickstarter's going to fail. Honestly, all right. Honestly, I don't give a fuck if the Kickstarter fails. Do you think we came here just for a single Kickstarter? Did you think we were going to be that easy to shut up? Are you out of your mind? You don't know fuck all about Marines if you thought that was the case. That's all I'm saying.
And to be a little less aggressive about that, I think what he's trying to say is that even if the Kickstarter, it would be nice, even if it fails, this game will continue on. We will continue to develop Sacrament.
We decided to be volunteers for a reason. We're going to keep doing it. So all there is to it. Anyone else? Euler?
Nope. That looks...
Okay. Let's do our
closing.
Our closer.
So as everybody knows, the Kickstarter's live. We'll have this video up on YouTube if you
we have a question. Time out.
Oh, we got a question. Okay. DCN, Agelos, I'm pretty sure. If I'm wrong, let me know. Says, well, on the theme park question, I think people talk about it in the method of theme park is where players can't create any content for themselves, but sandbox players create the content. Is there ways for players to make their own content? Absolutely. Our creator system is designed wholly around players creating content. As far as, I know there's some games out there where you can create whole worlds and whatnot. I don't believe we're going that crazy just yet. Just yet.
The issue between theme park and sandboxes, that's what some people think. But, we're talking to everybody. It's the internet here. For some people, it's not a sandbox until you think of a literal sandbox. And the game that does this perfectly is Eve. Players decide everything from the start of the game. Everything. They're not going to do that here because we have raids and so on. So we have base content that's decided on the server end of the game, and that's not a sandbox. But at the same time, you're not put in this singular spot and you just follow the line everywhere. That's a theme park. Like, we're neither. We're a game. Theme box is a terrible word. We're not using it at all.
Hey, you don't get to veto me, man.
Terrible. But anyway.
So
No,
here's a reality on all this, and it's something we've discussed internally. Over the next year or two, we're going to have to create a term that defines what this game is.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's when you hear people say doing something that hasn't been done before, especially when people start talking about how much experience we have. Well, how can you have experience for something that hasn't been done before? As we start showing people exactly what it is we're doing, because right now we're telling, right? As we start showing it, people are going to start more and more saying, oh, shit, oh, fuck, what the hell is that? They're going to need a name for it. They're going to, because they can't call Sacrament a sandbox, and they can't call Sacrament, they really can't call it a motherfucking theme park.
And you can't say we're both either, because that doesn't work. Like, it's not us saying it doesn't work. It's people today have turned it into this term and how it's used and everything. It's easier to make a new word than change the language it's spoken in.
Dr. Lore's suggestion is sand theme box park. What do you think
How
of that?
about we just use a word that's not related to either of them?
We're just going to create our own word, and it's not going to be anything related to me either.
Yeah,
that would be
the
bad.
word for it. The perfect word.
Oh, God.
Something
Anyway,
new.
any other questions before it turns
Something
into-
new. All right. So, all of you crazy bastards are aware of our Kickstarter. That's where some of you came from. Blah, blah, blah. So, this video will be up on YouTube in about an hour. Share it if you'd like. If you really want people to listen to me talk and cuss and be unprofessional again. For those of you that think swearing is unprofessional, well, you're going to fucking drown.
There's other parts of the internet. Have fun.
You're going to absolutely drown in business. I'm just going to point that out there. If you haven't yet, head over to our Facebook, like our Facebook page. Head over to our Twitter and follow there. You can get all kinds of news there. It's likely where Sindin and Hudika found out that we were, or maybe they got the email about the pod or the podcast from Twitch. I'm not sure. Head over to our website. We've got David says he's going to record it in 15 minutes, which means it'll be mastered in about 2 or 3 hours, depending on what Knights is doing, which means tomorrow it might be up there. But head over to our website. I will force Corey, our webmaster, to put the audio on there. If you log into it, it's fucking happening, ladies and gentlemen. Also, head over to the forums as well. Sign up. Right now, you can get on the forums for free. After the Kickstarter, successful or not, which, by the way, it's not really that difficult to predict a failed Kickstarter. Most of them fail, by the way. You'll have to pay, it's $1 a month for 10 months or $10 outright, and you'll have full access. And that's to get rid of all the bots. You guys probably aren't seeing it, but the bots are getting worse and worse and worse as we become more and more public. MMORPG and other websites are starting to post articles about us, which was my fault they weren't. And I've learned. We've got a marketing guru who's actually helping me understand marketing a little bit more. So we're working on that. If you've got any talents, hey, marketing especially developers, to be honest with you, head on over to our forums, our volunteer forum. Actually, it's all down below. If you wanted to click on any of these things, they're all down below. And then the Sacrament Weekly is on hold until the end of Kickstarter as we redesign and work on how the format and how the presentation is going to work. So if you were watching that and you're going to be upset about that, I apologize. You can punch Crave in the face. Just punch Crave in the face, and that'll make me feel better.
Not the face.
Right in the face. He won't miss it. He's as ugly as me, and there's no getting uglier. So, and that's pretty much everything. You got anything else, Chet?
I don't got a damn thing. So,
and our next podcast is next week.
Friday, same time, same day, same story. Us. It's just going to be me and Lay again, being ugly.
They're kicking the rest of us to the curb.
Yeah.
Can't do hat tips, man. There's too many hat tips in this motherfucker. Like, I felt dizzy. So, yeah. All right.
Until next time, guys.
Yep,
Thanks for
that's
stopping
it.
by.
Till next time, send us off, big dog.
Bye.